Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of N Health with Nick and Jiordana, and this week we're going to be talking about weight loss. It's a really relevant thing. I was doing a little bit of research, and apparently it's like 60 some odd % of people on our planet suffer from some kind of like overweight or obesity issue, and that's absolutely insane, especially because it's like such a causing factor for so many other problems that come down the road as well. So that's wild.
Yeah.
First off the bat. So we thought it'd be a great idea to address that in this video, and it's a bit of a subject that hits a little close to home for both of us as well.
Yeah.
Like I personally had a bit of a weight loss journey. Probably lost about like 60 pounds, give or take, over a course of a few years. I know Jiordana as well has gone through quite the transformation as well. So we figured we'd kind of bring in our own experiences with it as well, and we'll just jump right into it. So we all know, like, when it comes to diet and weight loss and exercise, the first most important thing is what I mentioned is diet. What you put in your body is going to have it's going to dictate everything going forward from your weight loss journey. So we're going to kind of go over like the food side of things, the supplement side of things, and we'll kind of leave exercise alone because it is important, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be like the make or break factor of your journey. It's going to help. Don't get me wrong, you're going to feel better, but it's kind of like almost secondary to this conversation. So why don't we just get started?
Yeah, so I think that when it comes to weight loss, so this is like continuing our obesity series,
kind
right?
of along those lines.
Yeah, and so then weight loss in general is like, it's quite a large topic. But it's interesting because like the root cause of it is really just diet.
Yeah.
Unless there are underlying like hormonal issues like hypothyroidism, but even then it's really like brought on by diet.
Still influenced by food.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's like two situations here. Either you know the information and you just choose not to, like you still choose to indulge.
Yep.
Or you just are misinformed about like what is healthy and what's not.
Because I'm sure if we pulled up like a Google screenshot of like a weight loss Google search, is probably gonna be the most confusing thing you've ever looked at in your life.
There's so much nutritional information out there. It's actually so confusing. So it doesn't shock me when people come into the clinic, like in the obesity clinic, and they're confused, right?
Absolutely overwhelmed.
I know, there's so many different diets. Like, what do you follow? Paleo, keto, like carnivore diet. Like, it's
like
honestly,
Atkins, like there's so many.
Yeah,
there's
fruitarian.
So many,
like, it just, and the list goes on, right? So, I think that the first thing that's important is just to kind of clear up any misconceptions about what is healthy and what is not. And then if it's not a misconception and it's more that you just you know the information, but it's just too hard to make the right choices. Then in that case, it's more of a conditioning or mindset issue, which falls into, like psychology and binge eating tendencies, which we'll also cover today.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think that, first of all, it's important to kind of talk about why diets don't work.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, from my own experience, going on a diet, first of all, gives yourself a specific start date and end date.
Yes.
So you can't really be on a diet forever because they're too restrictive, which causes, when you restrict the body too much, it causes a restrict and binge cycle. So human beings are like naturally rebellious.
Yes.
If you think about like Adam and Eve and the apple, or like all these myths.
So many different stories, like of us breaking the rules or doing something taboo.
Exactly.
But it ends up being for the better.
Yeah, for sure. And so if you like constantly restrict yourself, like as soon as you have a moment of weakness, like
it goes
you don't
all out the window. We've all been there. Like you on this diet where you're like, I'm not gonna have any sweets or carbs. I'm just gonna have salad and steak and eggs and chicken breast. Like you're gonna last like 3 weeks, and then you're gonna end up at like Chick-fil-A.
Exactly.
And a blackout.
Yeah, and as soon as you like smell cookies, then you just gain all the way back and sometimes even more. So the most important point that I want to emphasize here is just that if you are a serial yo-yo dieter, where you tend to go into the binge and restrict cycles, the first thing that you need to do is just stop dieting. And I know that can be really scary because some people think that if they stop dieting, they're just going to gain like so much weight. But once you stop restricting yourself, the body will eventually kind of balance out.
Set a new balance out. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's kind of the first point. And then the second point I wanted to go over is just kind of like clearing up any misconceptions about like what is healthy and what's not. And I think you're going to be pretty like shocked to hear that it's actually very, very simple. It's not
pretty straightforward. Yeah. We like to overcomplicate things.
Yeah.
As well on that same note.
It's like, I mean, even with the years of studying nutrition and all of the scientific and like molecular, like chemical reactions that happen, like it really is as simple as like if it grows in the ground or on a tree, it's healthy. If it has to be processed, then it's unbalanced.
Yeah.
So once something like grows from the ground, like an apple, let's say, has the perfect amount of like fiber, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E. It's literally designed for your body.
Yeah.
So you're never going to run into any kind of imbalances. Now, if we were to like take that apple and then just extract the sugar from the apple.
Apple juice.
Like apple juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then you're missing the fiber and you're missing all of the nutrients to balance out that glucose. So then it's going to cause a blood sugar spike, which is going to cause cravings and weight gain and so on and so on. And so basically when we take like, for example, white rice, so rice actually, like brown rice with the husk on, is balanced enough that it's not going to cause any type of sugar spike. But when they strip the rice of all of its nutrients and just give you like the inner sugar of the rice, which is the white rice, again, it's really just sugar.
Yeah.
And that's what happens for like wheat and all of the other grains that they strip. And so ideally, you don't need to be afraid of grains either, or fruit. You just need to eat them in their whole form.
Definitely going to be the best way. It seems like the underlying theme here is that you want to make an overhaul versus a small change. Like you want to make a lifestyle habit instead of just like a thing you do every once in a while to try to kind of figure it out almost.
Yeah.
Is what I'm taking away from this.
Exactly. And sometimes people, you know, we all live busy lives, right? So sometimes people just like simply don't have time to like cook every
12-hour day, you got kids, you have to worry about their food, and then talk about, you know, frozen pizzas come out of the freezer or something like that when someone gets home. It's a real thing, definitely.
Yeah, and every once in a while, I mean, it's totally fine to have these like quick and easy fast food meals, but it shouldn't be a staple. When something is like in your diet daily, then it kind of becomes a part of you, just like you are what you eat.
Literally.
So basically, a really easy way to kind of like make this transition to sustainable weight loss and like long term that's going to last is to just start like one meal at a time, or even just start with your snacks. Like pack snacks that don't require any type of meal prepping. Like an apple has its own packaging. Like you literally pick it up and eat
Put it in your bag,
or like nuts and seeds, raw of course, because once they're roasted or like salted and whatever, it's a bit different.
Oils involved and
exactly, but like those are really quick snacks that you can just bring with you, so that you're not getting too hungry and then indulging later.
Yeah, I know when I was on my weight loss journey, one of the big things was snack changes. I still, like in the beginning, I made a big change on snacks, like what I was eating at work throughout the day, and I noticed a big impact, like just like raw almonds or whatever, and those actually made a big difference in terms of my energy, because I was obviously eating a little bit differently, so my body was like, whoa. So the snacking kind of helped as well, and I think those made a really big difference on also me being full between like my meals that were a little bit different than what I was used to, which were like high calorie sort of processed stuff versus these sort of more thought out, more mindful meals. Yeah.
And then, so when we eat anything, it basically takes 20 minutes for our stomach to tell our brain, like, I'm full.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest problems that I see in my practice is people are eating way too quickly. So, you know, or they're eating distracted, like they're standing up, they're running after their kids. Yeah. They're eating in the car. And in that case, your body is focusing on other external stimuli. So when you eat, it's not focusing on actually producing the enzyme and digesting the food. And if you don't digest the food properly, you're not going to feel full. So that's when it starts to affect your leptin and ghrelin signals. So leptin is the I'm full signal. Yeah. It's a hormone. And then ghrelin hormone, hormone, and it's the I'm hungry signal. And people can actually become leptin resistant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which means that basically the cells in your body, like you produce the I'm full signal so frequently that the cells in your body stop listening to it, and then you actually never feel full.
That's wild.
Yeah, so if you're somebody who suffers from like uncontrollable unsatiability, so being like eating and not never feeling full, then that might be one of your issues, and we'll actually talk about a supplement that helps with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, but other than that, making sure that you're practicing some mindful eating practices. So, you know, sitting down when you're eating, like focusing on the food, actually chewing your food until it's a paste.
It sounds like you're telling people to slow down and enjoy their food a little bit more is what I'm kind of taking away from it.
Yeah.
Like, make it a ritual almost. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Like, I mean, we also used to think back to like our family dinners or like traditional dinner time, you know, maybe like 30 years ago, and it was all like we'd sit down and you focus on each other and the food, and there's not like a whole lot of conversation. You know, put your phone away, like blah blah blah, like all that sort of business, and it all makes sense now.
Yeah,
our parents weren't just telling us to like pay attention.
Yeah, and there's actually a whole book written on this, and it's called like the France hypothesis or the French hypothesis, and it basically talks about how people in France, like they eat like cheese and bread and all these all these really fattening foods, but they're all much thinner than people in North America, and a lot of that comes down to like the rituals that they have around food, actually sitting down, enjoying their meals. So work one step at a time. Like don't just like tomorrow create this restrictive food plan, because then you're back in the diet and binging cycle. But yeah, just work one meal at a time and try and do it based on convenience and what you like. So I mean, if you don't, if you don't like eating, I don't know,
Brussels sprouts, don't eat them. Like, pick another vegetable.
It doesn't matter how healthy they are. If you don't like eating it, don't eat it. And this brings me to another really important concept about training our palates. So if you've been eating processed foods and takeout foods for so long, these highly palatable foods actually change your taste buds to want those type of like highly palatable foods again.
Also, like through science, we've made them tastier. Like literally all these processed foods are designed specifically to be as tasty as humanly possible.
Yes.
So yeah, we've definitely been tricked.
And then once we have a diet that's full of those like highly palatable foods, our taste buds aren't going to be attuned to like the sweetness of a strawberry or the sweetness of a blueberry. And so once it gets to that point, it is reversible. Absolutely. It's just that you have to bring down the highly palatable foods in your diet so that you can eventually enjoy the sweeter like natural fruits.
And again, I think that mindfulness approach is like a really good one.
Yeah.
In terms of just like slowly but surely kind of going through that process of knocking it out. Like for me, I was definitely one of those people, like I was obsessed with like just sweet and tasty and savory and all that kind of stuff. And I found that like I started small and that was a big help. Like just skipping sugar in my coffee.
Yes.
And again, slowly adapting to, okay, let me just try drinking water with my lunch instead of getting a Diet Coke. And then eventually it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to skip sauces. And then the next thing you know, you're like, I enjoy the taste of fruits and vegetables. This is crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it actually happens more like quickly than you would imagine, right? Like it's definitely not an overnight thing. No. But within like a month or two, like if you cut out the highly palatable foods for like 2 weeks, you're going to taste like other things are going to start to taste sweeter. Yeah, and I think you brought up a really great point about, just don't put the sugar in your coffee or like just making really, really small changes.
It's like, little brick by brick, you want to build it together. You're not going to try to do it all in one go.
Yeah, well, and making those really, really small changes actually is what trains your palate and keeps it more sustainable.
And easier on your psychological process.
Exactly. And then it's not a diet. Yeah. It's just you're making like lifestyle changes.
It's almost like look at it like from an extreme perspective, right? Where there's two different sets of extremes to look at. Where it's like you have one extreme where it's like I'm going to take everything away. Doesn't feel very good. But then you think back to your other extreme where it's like I'm going to have everything. Yeah. You didn't feel very good. Yeah. So kind of I could approach it with that mindset where it's like, okay, I was going all in on the bad food. And I felt really bad. So I think going all in on the good food might not be the best route to take in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And then once it becomes a habit, then you're kind of all set. And then you don't need to worry about, if there's a dinner, because there's always going to be a birthday, a dinner, Christmas time. And I find that people often build their diets around these like holidays. So, I have a birthday coming up, so I'll start on Monday. Like I hear that all the time. And there never should be a start date because as soon as there's a start date, there's an end date.
Exactly. Like approach it with like, I'm living a healthy life.
Yeah.
I have my friend's birthday. I'm going to go and enjoy it and make the most of the evening and then continue back with my life that I was working on.
Yeah. Or like, I know I'm going to indulge on Thanksgiving. So now the day before Thanksgiving, I'm probably going to skip dessert. Yeah. Just because I know that I'm going to be indulging later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about balance.
Yeah.
Where it comes down to. And not being hard on yourself.
Yeah, and it's definitely much more easier said than done, especially when we talk about like actual food conditioning and how essentially we receive all of these signals from our body, these cravings, and some of them is not true hunger. So in order to really kind of nail this sustainable long-term weight loss, you have to really understand in your body like what is true hunger and what is a craving. And you can get there by just starting to like push back your meals and starting to really recognize like what true hunger signals are. Because every single time that we get this craving, if we act on every craving, if we get craving, eat, we're just reinforcing that habit. And then if one day we're like, I'm not going to eat anymore, like I'm restricting myself and I'm going on a diet, you get the craving, you don't eat, the craving's like, whoa, I'm going to speak louder.
Yeah.
I like she didn't hear me. I'm speaking louder.
Hey, I want sugar.
Yeah, and then that's when it becomes much harder to manage, right? And so if this is an issue that you have, just leave a message in the comments because I can help you with like the more psychological aspect of it. But just to save time on this video, we'll move
that's a
forward.
Whole other crazy discussion about because a lot of variables that go into like the psychology behind what we eat, how we eat, when we eat, all these different crazy things. So
yeah, and so then I guess we'll just kind of talk about the supplements.
I mean, definitely going to help. So yeah, go ahead. I guess we'll introduce what they are and what they do and all that kind of good stuff. There's some pretty cool ones here too, like mango. I didn't think mangoes were used in the supplement, but apparently they are. So I had to do some research on that.
So the African mango is literally the only supplement that I'm aware of that, and like I know quite a few, but that I'm aware of that actually works on your leptin signals. So there is like in the medical field, like there's nothing that can reverse like leptin resistance other than like intermittent fasting or creating long fasts. In the supplement world, in the holistic world, African mango works fantastic. So basically what it's going to help to do, it was traditionally used like in Africa, I believe, where people that don't have access to food would use it so that they could stave off their hunger. And then now that it's kind of been like pushed into the Western world, it's really great because it helps to slow down the digestive process. So it's going to help you feel full for longer. And that's going to help with your leptin signals because then leptin's going to have enough time to really form and let your brain know like, hey, I'm full, I can stop eating. Yeah, so that sounds
really helpful.
Yeah, so this one is really good if you're somebody who is like more of a mindless eater or an emotional eater.
Binge eater, like different things like that.
So this would be yours. And then the second one, the B complex. So B complex is just like a staple for everybody, in my opinion. So what the Bs do is they help to turn your food into energy. So instead of storing your food, it's going to literally, it's a part of the ATP cycle. So that's the energy production cycle and metabolism. So most of the vitamins are coenzymes to actually produce like energy out of your food. So you're going to feel much more energetic. You're going to be less fatigued and you're going to not store as much.
That sounds pretty good, especially because a lot of people tend to feel like they're sluggish and tired as they're entering a diet. So I feel like that's really, really beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that's also it's what also contributes to why people make unhealthy choices because they're so tired. They're like, I don't want to cook tonight.
Yeah, or like I'm tired at work. Let me grab a snack from the kitchen. It's a cookie. It's going to give you like a quick little hit, and then a whole other laundry list of problems to deal with afterwards. But
and then the final one is the Forskolin. So this is a really good one if you are somebody who deals with like hypothyroid issues or a really sluggish metabolism. So Forskolin is really helpful for breaking down. It's got a lipolytic tendency or mechanism. So it's going to help to break down stored fat and use it for energy. And it's also going to help to boost the metabolism.
So that sounds really helpful as well from like an energy perspective too, I guess. Because the only reason why people feel sluggish is because their body really doesn't know what to do from like a cellular process at the energy level. So that sounds like it's really going to help.
Yeah.
A lot.
And the combination of all three together is like killer, especially just to give you that kind of push in the beginning. Now, I do want to say that like this isn't a substitute for healthy eating in any way, shape, or form. There is no magic pill at all. However, I find, especially in my own practice, some people really do just need a little bit of help in the beginning to get themselves going so that they can start to break cycles and even start to retrain that palate.
Definitely. Even some psychological parts too, just like creating a little more routine around it. And kind of creating some more value in the equation for them from weight loss perspective. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know when I was on my weight loss journey, even if it was like taking like a vitamin, I found that it helped just from like creating a habit of like, okay, vitamin, water, black coffee, okay, grab a shower. Like it kind of put me in this like routine state. And that's a big one as well when it comes to like weight loss and stuff like that, like trying to set up as much of a routine as possible. Obviously we live in a crazy world, so routines aren't always like a doable thing, but just being mindful of that is going to help a lot. For sure.
And in the same way where if you have a craving and you respond by eating, it reinforces the habit. If you like set up a routine, and let's say if you have the craving and you don't respond by eating, if you do that enough, your body's going to stop sending you the cravings. And when you set up routines and habits, you're literally like proving to yourself that like you can be trusted, that you can set up healthy habits. So it all kind of like it's a circular pattern.
Definitely, but a good one. So that was our video on like weight loss and how we can kind of help that out from like both a lifestyle perspective and a supplement perspective. So I know for myself this hits home, so I thought this was a great topic to go over. If you guys have any questions about this topic, as it's very confusing as we mentioned, feel free to comment below and we'll get back to you guys as we'd love to answer these types of questions for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, stay tuned for more. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.